Vakratunta Mahakaya Koti Surya Samaprabha Nirvignam Gurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvata Gajananan Bhuta Ganadi Sevitam Kapita Jambu Falasara Bhakshanam Umasutam Shoka Vinasha Karanam Namami Vigneshwara Pada Pankajam. Why is astrology such a complex science? Anyone?
There's so many permutations and combinations of life.
So what you're saying is life itself is so complicated. So what do you expect, right? So that makes it more complex. Good evening, Roger. Yes, Soumya, you can give the intro.
Okay, Guruji. Somebody wrote about Shani Hora. Roger.
8 o'clock. 8 to 9.
8 to 8. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another session of Coffee with Guruji. Very grateful to have our beloved teacher here to teach us one more lesson in this beautiful journey of divine science of astrology. Today's topic, I feel, is one of the most important and yet, in my opinion, a little bit more advanced because you can have something in your chart, then you have to consider the timeline, which is dasha and antardasha, as in when can you get the results. And then you have transits, which is even more refined tuning of what the results are going to be. So it's kind of like a combination of the chart, the dashas and the antardashas, and then the transit. So we're going to learn specifically about transits today, and absolutely looking forward to it because, like I said, it tells you in a very refined way what is going to happen in a shorter period of time, keeping all the other factors in mind. So nobody better than our Guruji. He has taught us in the classes as well, but I can't wait to hear some of his explanation and examples on transit. So welcome, Guruji. Over to you.
Thank you. On what view are we in? Okay, speaker view. Gallery. Yeah. In terms of the when, which is the timing, before we get into timing, or when we want to answer this question, when, we have to first try to answer this question before that, which is, will it? Will it happen? So once we have got some evidence from the horoscope that, yes, we can expect this event to happen, then we can go to the next stage of when will it happen. Does everybody agree with this?
Mhm.
Maybe it's very difficult to find out whether it will happen or not. That's also, in a way, a very tough question in every aspect. Because what might be an affliction might sometimes be a delay in event. It might happen after 10 years, after 15 years. Let's say there's lots of combinations which indicate putra dosha in a horoscope. And so we know that the children aren't going to arrive on time. There'll be some delay. And then when we know there is one ray of hope, maybe, for example, Jupiter, by its beneficence, looks at the house in consideration, which is the 5th house, the Putra Sthana. Then we say, let's say there are so many problems and yet there is relief because Jupiter aspects. But then the question is, when will it give you the relief? So for this, we have many methods. One is, of course, the once in a lifetime dasha and antardasha. In a combination of dasha and antardasha, you'll have it only once in your lifetime. So obviously, the dasha and antardasha is more unique than transit because transit keeps coming back again and again. So in astrology, the most important valuable information is to be obtained like this. You have to ask, how often does that happen? When you say how often does that happen, how frequently does it happen? How rare it is? The rarer, then it has more information. For example, the moon keeps coming back again and again to the same point once in 27 days or somewhere between 27 and 28 days. The sun always goes to the next sign roughly every month. And it's so predictable. But you know that they keep coming back so frequently over the same sign again and again. But if you look at life, you will see certain events aren't happening so frequently. The marriage, for example, happens to most of us only once. Or sometimes it may happen 2 times. Same way, the number of children we beget, also rare. So first make a list of events that are rarer and then say how to time these events based upon the transit. So the transit is maybe a kind of a switch. It's like a switching on, something that is already there. There is this electrical wires, there is this bulb, but there is a switch and it wasn't switched on. So you don't get the light and you need something to switch it on. So transit is best understood as a trigger. And in a way, even a dasha, antardasha is also a trigger. So you can never read them separately. It's not a good idea to read them separately. You need to keep an eye on both at the same time. But when it comes to this, we always ask, how much weightage should we give to transit or to dasha and antardasha? By using this logic, how many times in your life will you have this dasha and this antardasha, since it is happening only once in your lifetime? You can say dasha and antardasha is more important than the transit of planets. But that doesn't mean transit of planets is not that important. But if you ask for a flat answer, okay, let's try to answer this. How much percentage of weightage can we give? I always use this formula, 60-40. But this is also not a constant, depending upon the type of transit that we are happening. For example, I used to tell my clients, whenever a person goes through Sade Sati, 7.5 year Saturn, they'll always say, life has become completely different. It's not like how it was before. Why is it so different? Parents, when they come for consultation, my son has never been like this. Something happened. Why is it happening? So some transits are very, very strong and very powerful, as significant results in our life. Noteworthy, easily spotted. Suppose if you see a person very healthy and then suddenly you notice he is limping, you can be sure it is most probably has something to do with Saturn, especially transit. So you can also use some other hints to know whether the transit is doing it or the dasha and antardasha is doing it. We have many methods for that. One is to always notice what is the event that has happened and try to see what was the nakshatra on the date of event and see if it has got any relationship with the transit. Whenever transit happens, the major planet that is affecting the event will also be involved in the day of the event. Will always be connected to that. Sometimes to the nakshatra. You know that each nakshatra has a certain planet that is ruling it. Like for example, Ashwini, Maka, and Mula is ruled by Ketu. So it is very important that to understand transit, you should understand the 27 nakshatras and you should know the lords of each nakshatra, and then somehow try to connect it with your dasha and antardasha. So during this class, we will also try to understand this approach. But straight away, there is one rule that connects the dasha and antardasha combination with the transit of planets. Can anyone recall that we have actually mentioned it in the class? Let's see if one of you can recall. What is the direct connection between dasha, that is planetary periods, dasha and antardasha, in connection with transit of planet? Any rule that comes to your mind that the Maharshi has said? Anyone? Are you allowed to unmute? You can raise your hand and tell the answer. Don't worry, even if it is wrong. Anyone? Or you want me to rephrase the question? Yes.
Guruji, dasha must first actually give permission for transit to happen.
Okay. Something more specific? Just one idea, one clue that the Maharshi did say this.
So the question is how the dasha and the mahadasha and transit are connected.
Yeah, by Maharshi Parashar has mentioned an idea when it comes to the transit of planets versus when you're talking in terms of dasha and antardasha, which if you don't want to use these two words, combine it into one single word, we call it planetary period. Straight away, is there any idea to connect the planetary period with the transit of planet?
Right. So, sir, if you are going through antardasha or mahadasha of a planet, and in transit, that planet moves to the same house where it is located in your birth chart. Then the impact is more. So let's say you are going through Saturn's mahadasha, and Saturn is in let's say first house, and in transit also Saturn comes in first house.
First house, you said 2 times. First house from which, and then first house from which again?
First house from mahadasha and first house from transit.
First house from mahadasha. Okay.
More connection with the moon.
No, he didn't say that. Okay. Let's save time. No, not with Ashtavarga. Ashtavarga is a separate thing. Definitely transit has to be always read only with Ashtavarga. He has mentioned that in the Ashtavarga chapter. In fact, the climaxing of Ashtavarga itself is only transit. Finally, what do you do with all these numbers is finally end up with the transit of planets. Okay. There must be some takeaway before we conclude this today's class. So there are people who are eager to learn at least 1 or 2 things from today's class. So let's try to hasten this. Okay, what did he say is like this. Let's say you begin Jupiter Mahadasha. Okay, this applies mostly to dashas. You can go up to Antardasha also. Now, when you start a dasha, I'll give you an example. If Jupiter Dasha, we are starting. For some of you, it started exactly this year. This year means, let's say it started in January 2021. Then the Maharshi says, when it started, find out where it is in the Rashi chart. Nothing to do with the moon sign or Lagna, nothing. Simple zodiac. And we know that Jupiter is debilitated, has been debilitated in Makara during the, let's say January 2021, somebody started his Jupiter Mahadasha. He says this Jupiter Dasha, there will be a lot of letdowns. There will be more problems. And if you can find out more problems from the chart with in regard to Jupiter, he says it is confirmed because at the time it began, the Jupiter is not in the same place. It is elsewhere each time. Each time you go through Jupiter sub period or main period, or compare it with others, your friends for whom the Jupiter Dasha might have started some other time, you just use a software to find out where Jupiter was at the beginning. He says that's very important to notice where it was at the beginning, because something started well, something that has a good start has a good ending. It is based upon this idea. So this is a very beautiful rule, though it looks very generalized. Can we really believe this? This is one statement that the Maharishi has said. Something similar to this. Can you come up with something else? Not exactly mentioned straight away by the Maharishi like this. Without Ashavarga, one more way you can connect the transit of planets with Dasha or the planetary period. Okay, I think we'll show some slides instead of asking without a slide. To use this idea,
like Jupiter in Trikona to the moon or something like that. So
no, I was saying, is there any way to connect to the planetary period? Any transit? Of course, we have so many ways. This itself can be, only transit can be taken for maybe 30 sessions, 30 sessions. It's so vast. It's so complicated. We can't do that. But we are just trying to have some takeaways in this class. Okay.
So your question is, just to reiterate it, if a Mahadasa and Antadasa is going on, how do we connect?
How do you connect? Exactly. How do you connect the transit? In any beautiful novel way, if you think this is definitely a great idea, you can pronounce it. Let's see how whether we approve of it. Want to share the screen? To use this idea, you need to know what is the nakshatra at any given point in time. Only then you can relate it to the transit. Suppose I say a planet is in this particular portion where I'm going to use a particular color, say white, and then say, suppose I say somewhere here, what would be the star here?
Bharani, sir.
Bharani? Okay. Suppose I say it's over here.
Aslesha.
Okay. So this is what you should know, right? As soon as we draw a line or draw something, let's say a planet is here, you should say it is in Mula Nakshatra. Okay. So if you want to learn, if you want to use transits, you must know this by heart. And why is the South Indian chart so useful is because you have an earth in the middle and everything is going around it. Okay. So it's easy to picturize this. So if suppose I say this circular motion is so easy on this type of chart, you can show it like this, which you can't do it in the North Indian chart. This actual movement. This is how it looks from Earth. Okay. Now, I'm going to give an idea. Let's say this is the ascendant. So when I'm going through my Rahu Mahadasha, 1 minute, somebody's mic has to be, yeah. 1 second. Prahlad, I made you the co-host. There's some noise in the background. Please help me out. Mute them. Yeah. So you know that Rahu, instead of moving like this, all planets move like this, but Rahu alone goes like this. Okay. In fact, whenever it does, the opposite side, Ketu also goes around the same way. So when I'm going through Rahu Dasha, Guru Antar Dasha. And if I tell you in my basic chart, Rahu is here in the house of marriage, and Jupiter is bang opposite to it. So they are nominee planets for my marriage. Because the 7th house is the house of marriage, and therefore these two planets are looking at each other, not just looking at each other, they are in the 1-7 axis between themselves and also between the ascendant. So that is too much. It's loaded with the possibility of a marriage. It's coming right on time and a particular age when most people around me are also getting married. So Rahu Dasha, Jupiter Antar Dasha. So when the event happens, there will be some connection with the basic chart between the Dasha and Antar Dasha. So what do you think? Now I'm going to remove the natal positions. Now, whenever we are doing transits, you'll have to use some terms. For example, you'll have to say natal. Okay. That is for to contrast with the transit. Okay, transit. It's not neat. Natal and transit. Natal, transit. Easy way is simply don't even mention what it is, means it is natal. But if you say it is T dot Jupiter, then it is transit Jupiter. Or T dot Rahu, it is transit Rahu. This is how you do it in a basic chart versus the transit chart. You need to use these terms. Something to, so that you can easily differentiate. Now try to guess what could be the best place for Rahu to be, or when do you think Rahu would have given me marriage? So you know that all planets move like this, but Rahu moves like this. Do you think Rahu was here when I got married? Or anywhere else?
Aquarius. Aquarius.
So, if it is here, okay, or here, something. So we will just try to see, suppose you're trying to notice the influence of this moving transit Rahu, wherever it is, which place could have been best? This could have been best because it is the original position of Rahu, where it was. But Rahu comes back to the same point once in 18 years. So once in 18 years, if that is not coming anywhere near to your marriage, you need to look out for other positions as well. But this is definitely a possible time when I'm going through Rahu Mahadasha. When Rahu enters the 7th house of marriage, marriage can happen. That means simply look out for where the transit of the Dashanath is happening. Always give more weightage to Dashanath when it comes to transit, because that is a longer period and it has a greater effect on us. And within that, the Antardasha. So in order to do this, I told you my marriage happened in Rahu Guru. So can you spot some Rahu Guru points in the sky, in the zodiac? Any Rahu Guru point?
It's in Aquarius.
Aquarius, what is in Aquarius?
There's a Jupiter star, Purva Bhadrapada.
Okay, there is a Jupiter. Okay, so what he is telling, the student is telling is, he says we have a this particular portion, okay, a 10-degree space in the sky. This particular whatever we see here is Pura Bhadra, the 25th nakshatra. What is special about Pura Bhadra, Rahul?
Jupiter is the Lord.
Huh?
For
Jupiter-
Jupiter is the Lord of Purva Bhadra.
Pura Bhadra. That way, Pura Bhadra is extending like this, correct? Because 3 padas of Pura Bhadra is here and 1 pada is on the top. 3 in 1, 3-1. 3 Pura Bhadras in Kumbha and 1 on the top. So if Rahu is anywhere here, marriage is possible. This sign belongs to Jupiter and this sign belongs to Rahu. So either Jupiter or Rahu comes to this place, it is quite sensitive. But in this, we give more importance to the Dashanath. And then to the Antardasha.
Sorry, sir. So the question, so in this related to this only, what if Rahu is debilitated in your birth chart, and then it can give a bad marriage because it is not well placed in the birth chart, or will it give a good marriage only because the Dashanath is Jupiter?
No, the Antardasha is Jupiter.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. The
Rahu
is-
Dasha and Jupiter Antardasha.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
What
Let's
if
not
the
get
other
it.
way-
Let's not get into the quality of marriage because it will distract students from learning about transit. We'll only stick to
Got
the
it.
transit topic. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is one important method that you could use for. So suppose I say, for this, you need to know the mix. For example, you might overlook the fact that Aquarius is also co-ruled by Rahu. Okay. So, but there is a specific Rahu nakshatra over here in this particular portion, which is here. That is, what is the nakshatra here?
Shatabisha.
Shadapisha.
Satabisha. Okay, this is a Rahu nakshatra. Now, the sun is a kind of a, because it moves month by month to the next sign, so it becomes usually sensitive, and it has something to do with the actual month of the event itself. And sometimes you can get more connections to the sun, maybe to the event itself. Sometimes, not always, but in case you get a connection, then it will become a cause of a trigger. For example, you know the moon rules my 7th house. So you look out for moon. Where is he in the sky? When I was born, it was here. and the owner of this sign, which is called the dispositor. Many people across India pronounce it as depositor. Okay, so please pronounce it properly, dispositor. So the dispositor of moon is the sun, this one. So now the sun has something very strongly connected to marriage because it became the dispositor of my seventh house Lord. It is my seventh house Lord. Seventh house pertains to marriage. Therefore, the sun becomes a significator. So when the sun kept moving like this, every month it moves. So December it comes here, middle of December, mid of January it comes here, and mid of Feb it comes here. And in a few days after that, it goes into the Rahu Nakshatra area. Now, you know that kind of happens during after the first 2 weeks of the first fortnight of February is over. It'll get into that particular portion of the sky, Satabisha, and it'll stay there for roughly 13 days. And it was during this time in the month of February, the 3rd week, I actually got married. But then once you know more and more about astrology, you can try to relate why this Rahu Nakshatra instead of this one. We have a Rahu Nakshatra here. If the event has something to do with my profession, because this is my 10th house from my ascendant, then this might also be acted as a trigger. We have another Rahu Nakshatra over here, which is Arudra. But these are not connected to marriage. But why is this house connected to marriage? Anyone?
Because it is
Rahu
sublord, sir.
Rahu,
Second was family.
Because it is
Second
Jupiter's
was
nakshatra.
family.
Yeah. So it is a kutumba matter. Marriage is a kutumba, a family matter. Okay. So it is that. Any other explanation you have why this sun is so strong in giving the marriage, apart from just that it has come to the second house?
Seventh from the natal
Because
moon.
8th house lord, sir.
No, somebody said 7th from. What is that?
From Leo, it is sun is in the 7th.
Why Leo?
Leo was
Moon.
the moon sign,
Leo is the
the lord of the 7th.
Leo is
The
not the
Lord
Lord
of
of
the
the 7th.
Lord of 8th, sir.
Lord of 8th. You're very close, but you're missing the point.
Sun aspects
Sir, seventh
Lord
from
of
the moon,
seventh
sir.
native.
No, like how we view it from ascendant, when you view it from moon, sun becomes the 7th house.
No, moon is simply the 7th Lord. That's all.
No, but
This
usually
transits-
when you look at different
Huh?
The transit sun aspects the 7th Lord, natal
That's all.
7th.
That's all. That's all. Okay. So whatever happened in the natal chart, that you should remember which are the planets connected to what events. And somehow when they get again connected, there will be a heavy, a very strong force to make the event happen. It's always like that. You could use this logic. See, for example, here, if you keep changing your standpoint, no, I'll read it from ascendant, I'll read it from the moon, and whichever comes, I will say, it is very good for postmortem analysis. But if you try to do any prediction, you will have always many options to say. You can, for example, somebody is asking you, when will I get married? You can say, you can get married here, you can get married there, and then this year you can get married, next year you can get married, and so on and so forth. There won't be any, you won't have a standpoint. You have to stand somewhere. So when you time events using the basic chart without using what was taught to us in the transit theories, you'll only use it from ascendant like you're reading a chart itself. But when you read any transit, that is like if you compare it with transit videos on internet, YouTube, you read an article, blog on transit, they would have written everything from the moon. So once it is written from the moon, as taken from Faladipika, whatever is written from the moon, the rules, the ideas, you have to stick to that. And you should not create your own ideas like, no, it has come into the 7th house, or 7th house is house of marriage. Because from the moon, if you are using moon as a reference point, sun in the 7th is not good. because sun only in the 6th is good. I'll show you another slide where you can learn that. But never mix up these two systems. You have to keep them apart. It is like you can have tea separately, you can have coffee separately, but you should never mix it up and drink. Okay. So if you're using that system, you stay there with the basic method of reading the chart, like how you read a natal chart. Then you can connect it to the transit. That's a nice idea. So this is one idea, but for this, you need to have a good grip on the actual star versus the Rashi connection. Okay.
Sir, one question here.
Yeah.
Where was the transit moon on the day of the marriage?
It was in Revati, in Guru's house. Again, it connects to. Now, what he's asking is, where was T dot moon? It was here. Why? Because it is a Jupiter sign that connects to my Jupiter Mahadasha. If you want more, I was married in the Pratyantar of Mercury, and Revati is a Mercury nakshatra. So you find somehow all these things will fall into one place. So there is a small portion of the sky here, which is ruled by this particular place, is ruled by Mercury. Okay. The last 13 degrees, 20 minutes, it's ruled by Revati. And this belongs to Mercury. So my Pratyantar, which is a dasha, antardasha, and one more division, a smaller interval of time, which will be somewhere like 3 months, something like that, as against the antardasha, which is quite long. It will be like 2.5 years, something like that. But instead of that, it will be 3 months, 4 months, depending upon the length of the normal length of the dasha itself. So the moon was in Revati, which is a Mercury nakshatra, but again in a Jupiter moon sign. Sorry, Jupiter sign. Okay. Then where was Jupiter in the sky? Jupiter was here in the starting portion of Aries. And from here, Jupiter looks at the 7th house of marriage, 7th lord of marriage, not 7th house. So Jupiter is always connected to auspicious events. Saturn is always connected to mostly inauspicious events. But Dr. K.N. Rao had asked us to check both the Saturn position and Jupiter position whenever it comes to transit. If you want to do this right, you may need a software because it's not so easy to calculate the aspects. But in this case, it was perfect because my moon was somewhere here, the last bit. And so when the moon is here, when Jupiter is in the beginning and the moon is here, from anywhere from a particular point, it gets the full effect here in this place. So Jupiter is looking at the 7th house lord of marriage. So however you try, the Dashanath and the Bhuktinath will be well connected. So because Jupiter is mostly connected to auspicious results, when Jupiter is connected like this some way, then it is very auspicious. If Jupiter is not connected, the marriage may happen, but it may not be very auspicious if Jupiter is unconnected. So please do not think for everyone there will be a Jupiter connection. Only if there is a happy marriage going on, there will be a Jupiter connection.
This we can look from both husband and wife chart, some relation will be there, sir.
Yes. Sometimes we'll have several connections between both the charts. First, initially, it is better to look at both the charts separately and see all the connections. But usually, there are many stages in this. Suppose you are trying to see when two people get married, you wouldn't start with this method. You'll only start with horoscope matching, whether it matches or not. After the matching is done, then when people agree to get married, then you can casually look into the period of marriage. But it'll almost, whenever they're trying to get married, it should reflect in both the charts. Suppose you combine this with dasha, with Navamsha chart, you will get more and more connections to the transit. If you cross-link it with the Navamsha. So I'll also teach you this method, how to connect it with the Navamsha also.
So when it comes to timing marriage, you should focus first on Navamsha, then go to
No,
Rasi, or other way around?
No. It's always first the Rashi chart for everything. The Rashi chart is what is the first and real thing. All divisional charts are in a way unreal. It's only at a very different kind of level the rishis must have understood the divisional charts, but it's not reality in the sky. Whereas if I say right now in the sky, if you look up into the night sky, those of you are in India, if you look up, let's say around 10 or 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, you can see Saturn and Jupiter straight above your head. Okay. So we can see this kind of reality from the Rashi chart. It is from the Rashi chart, all divisional charts are obtained. But just because it is not real, you cannot sidestep them, because there are a lot of very mysterious information, very uncanny, information inside the divisional chart. So I'm just going to give an introduction to this. Suppose I search for, the Lord of my seventh house is Moon, though it is not here, it is here. But the Lord is this one, right, of Karkadaga or Cancer. So in my chart, it is over here. It is in that small portion which is called Uttra Falguni, Uttra Nakshatra, Simharasi. That's my moon sign. Now you'll have to search for this moon in Navamsha. Okay, those of you who attended our beginners class, I'm sure you will be able to tell me where moon is in Navamsha. If it is in Uttra Falguni. Leo, anyone? In Navamsha chart, if I change this to Navamsha chart, where will the moon be?
Sagittarius.
Jupiter, sir. In
Sagittarius.
Jupiter, sir. In Sagittarius, yeah. In
Sagittarius.
Sagittarius.
Okay, it will be in Sagittarius, right? You got it right?
Sir, it will be in Cancer, sir.
It will be in Cancer. If it is in Uttra Falguni, Leo. You forgot, you'll have to go through my beginner's session. I think session number 7, we did it, right? Or 8. I don't remember. Anyway, many of you got it right. It is in Sagittarius.
Yeah, it is Sagittarius, sir.
Okay, yeah. So it is in Sagittarius. Now this becomes a marker, it seems, in the zodiac itself. Somehow it becomes a marker. So Chandrakala Nadi or Deva Keralam says that from the 7th Lord in the Navamsha, whenever Jupiter goes over this sign, marriage can happen, an auspicious marriage can happen. And then it goes like this and comes here, it will become trine from the moon in Navamsha. And moon happened to be my 7th Lord in the Rashi chart. So this will become the 5th from the moon. And I could also get married when Jupiter is here according to this rule, because from the moon, from the Navamsha moon, the Jupiter in the sky has come to Leo, which is the 9th. So the reading is like this. When Jupiter in transit keeps going around year after year, once in a while, it will get connected to the moon itself directly like this. If the marriage doesn't happen, it won't happen here. But when it comes here, it will happen. So when Jupiter came here, I got married. Like this, whatever rules that are there in the classical textbook regarding transit, you can experiment, have some collection of horoscope of your relatives, let's say 50 relatives or 50 friends, relatives all mixed up. You have it so that you can easily access it in terms of some topic. And then you want to know, okay, these people got married. Let's test this rule out. How many people got married in a particular, based on transit? Because today we are only doing transit. Okay,
Sir,
so
it is moon is because moon is seventh lord or your nakshatra, sir. Your
it is only
talking
seventh
about-
lord because we are relating it to the event.
okay, sir.
Okay, so do not say simply the moon, because in this reading we are not using the moon sign prediction at all, which is what you always see on TV and YouTube. Okay, that is totally different. For that, we have another slide. I'll show it to you. This is how I present the graph in my diary, astrology diary. Every year we release it. So this is the actual way you read the moon sign predictions. It's quite different from what we have said just now. Okay. Let's see if you have time to cover this. Otherwise, we'll do it in another session. So the rules you saw now is more connected to your proper, the exact way of using transit, not the generalized method of using from the moon sign. What is general about the moon sign? Anyone? Because we are using only one parameter called the moon sign. So whatever is your moon sign, for example, suppose I read only from the moon, all the transits, and try to predict all the events only from the moon. This is my moon sign. This is my ascendant. From the moon, let's say, whenever Jupiter comes here, people will get married. Why? We have a statement which says that whenever the Jupiter goes over the second from moon, the fifth from the moon, the seventh from the moon, the ninth from the moon, or 11th, it's auspicious. The standard phrase. You will hear at least, I think, close to 200 astrologers will repeat the same thing on YouTube channels. And you know, the possibility of this moon sign, this moon being in Leo, is it will actually be 1/12 of the world's population. You haven't connected it very specifically, but this seems to be a general method. At the same time, do we say that you cannot use this? We can use this as much as we can, because this also has an effect. How do you prove that transit results also work from the moon? On what basis can you say it also works from the moon, though not so specifically?
Sade Sati.
Take, for example, the Jupiter was here when I was married. According to what rule I just now wrote where I rubbed it off, is the Jupiter favorably placed from the moon?
Ninth, sir.
Yeah, 9 from moon.
Yes.
It also
Yeah,
works
ninth
from
from the
that
moon.
point. Okay, it also works from that point. Now, how to use this is, the predictions that we see from Phaladipika, you should only term it as these are auspicious times for conducting a marriage or a housewarming, etc. It's not actually predicting it, it seems. It is most probably going to happen. Or it is a time when most of the good things can happen to you. Or it is most of the time bad things can happen to you if you use Saturn instead of Jupiter. Something like that. It is not actually a straightaway prediction. It is tending to more often. It's not like how we read the transit. Or in a way, suppose somebody are asking, I go to an astrologer and ask, right now my Jupiter is here. And I'm saying I am frantically trying to get married. He'll say, okay, that's all right. But somehow, it'll be better if you marry when Jupiter enters Aries instead of being in Pisces. Why?
Because 12, 4, 3, 10, and 8 are it's not good signs from the moon.
Okay. So what is the astrologer actually mentioned? Is he saying it won't happen? Or
I think it's
It will,
unfavorable.
but it may not be auspicious, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so this is only about whether it is auspicious or not. Is it a good time? Like in a muhurta. Same way, if I replace Jupiter with Saturn, and let's say the moon is here, okay? The moon comes over here. This is the beginning of Sade Sati, 7.5 years Saturn. What does that mean? Is it good time or bad time?
Not a
Bad
good
time,
time.
sir. Because it is
Can you predict it's a good time or bad time?
It's inauspicious, 12:9:5 from moon is not good.
So this entire place, whatever I'm doing like this entire place is the Sade Sati area, the 7.5 year Saturn area. Because one sign before the moon, when Saturn enters, and when Saturn moves over the moon, this is the middle part of 7.5 year Saturn. And after 2.5 years, when it goes from this sign to the next sign, because Saturn stays in one sign for 2.5 years, it goes like this and then finally exits and moves out. So the last time it went from here like this into this sign, which year did it go?
2012, sir.
Yeah,
2011.
Yeah, 2011. Yeah. So
12 years back.
in order to do this properly, as astrologers, what you should do is you should have a ready reckoner, many pages. Simply write the just Jupiter, Saturn, Rahu positions and leave it there for the last 50 years. It's very easy to do this with the software. Just keep incrementing time like that and you can easily do it. In the middle, you can write, okay, this transit happened in, you can write it like this and keep it there. 2011, this was the position of Saturn. So you can always do postmortem analysis on events. When you study any celebrity horoscope and you want to know why it happened to them, how much Sade Sati is affecting people and all that. Okay. So this is, suppose a person, let's say, I come to you and you are my astrologer. Or I'll tell you something like this. Now, this is somebody's moon sign. This person comes to you. When Saturn enters this and crosses this and stays here. From here, it is going, it's start of the 7.5 year Saturn. And let's say this person comes to you and says, I want to start a very big company. I've been in a job. Now I want to borrow money from the bank and start a business. What would you say?
Don't do no.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes. Because it is Viraya, sir.
No, how will you answer the question?
Not to start, sir.
Why?
This is not right time.
Not right time, don't start. Just by transit, will you be able to say this?
By transit only, no, sir. This Sade Sati.
Correct. Only this is enough?
Other thing also required. We have to cross check it. Means if it is a dasha and antardasha is very strong, then we can overrule this one somewhat.
No, he is asking just at the starting of Sade Sati, to encounter some problems. Maybe he is asking, he's planning that type of, he's having that type of plans. Maybe.
Even though Sade Sati, when the dasha nadi and antardasha nadi is very positive and good, this effect will be less, the Sade Sati. If dasha and antardasha is bad and Sade Sati, it means
If
Okay.
Saturn is well placed in the chart, sir, to a certain extent, that also
Okay.
will help.
Okay. No, the question is, he has a doubt whether I can start this business. Okay. Will you say you're about to start Sade Sati and you already actually started Sade Sati? Next 7.5 years is going to be, how will you say? Will you say it's going to be the worst period of your life or something like that? And then say,
Yeah.
don't start.
I might say it's going to be challenging and you need to work more at night, more like 24/7. If you're ready for the challenge, please do it. If you're not ready for the challenge, then don't do it.
So you had mentioned once that with the Shadbala, if the 12th, 1st and 2nd from the moon has those points, the higher the points, the Saturn will not affect those houses. The
Lakshmi,
lower
it
the
is not,
points.
Lakshmi, it is not Shadbala, it is Ashtakavarga.
Ashtakavarga.
Ashtavarga, okay. Yeah.
Ashtakavarga.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Ashtakavarga. Okay. Can say
I
Ashtavarga
would
also.
say,
It's okay.
Yeah.
I would
Sir,
say
I'm not,
for Sade Sati, can you hear me?
Yes.
I would say for Sade Sati, that's not a time to start something new. That's the time that you have to do a lot of internal searching to see how you want to renew yourself and live for the next 20 years or so. So I would just say it that way. If you do a business during Sade Sati, it would probably be Saturn, the energy of Saturn would cause you to think, is this the right business? If you had already started it, and you might find out it wasn't the right business you really wanted to do, because the energy of Saturn will cause you to think. I mean, more than think, it'll cause you to go very deep inside yourself to see what you really want and how you want to live the next, what you want to rebuild for the next years after the Sade Sati period.
Alice, suppose he's already a businessman and he comes to you for consultation and you tell him your Sade Sati has started. In that case, how will you counsel him?
I would say if he's already a businessman and has he already started a new business or he's just in a business?
No, he's got many businesses and he's just, maybe he's just continuing with it. That time, would we say, please stop all business and go back to job?
No,
sir.
I would say, which of these businesses have been serving you best and which of these businesses do not serve you anymore? That's what I would ask him. I would ask him, how are these businesses serving you? Do you feel some of them have already run to completion? And is it time to let them go or to revamp them? Or are they going to be serving you for your goals for the next 10, 20 years?
So,
that's what I would say.
Sir, the businesses, if they are related to Saturn, that will have more impact. So maybe doing some astrological remedies and some pujas for Saturn will help. But the Saturn businesses will help. If they are related
if I'm talking to a Western client here in the United States, they might not necessarily go with that because they're not all, it's a different crowd here. Some of them are very open to some of the remedies and some are not. They're venturing and they're still not used to, understanding, the full range of the planetary effects. So you have to kind of give it to them piecemeal and say, you just have to see where they're at in their reading, like how open they are.
So in US, you can do karmic remedies. Karmic remedies means old age homes, and there are a lot of people who do that and take care of animals, especially dogs and horses, cats, and then old age home remedies. And then
for those
poor
who are
people
open
remedies,
to it,
shelters.
if they're not, it just depends on where
Correct.
they're at in their consciousness, because some of them, some are willing to do it depending on how spiritual they are here, and some maybe it just depends where they're at in their spiritual life.
Right.
Some are still, it might be a new exploration to to try an astrologer here in the United States, because it's not an ordinary thing here.
No, I'm myself in United States, New York. But what I was saying was there are a lot of people who are very fond of animals here, and there are, I would say, every other house you will see they have at least a dog or a cat. And then there are a lot of people who do a lot of charity. United States is the highest charity giving country in the world. I don't know if you know that, but if you Google it, you will find they're the most charitable. So I'm not saying 100%, but at least there are 60-70% population have at least dogs and cats. It's
true.
a good way to say it's a one way to, if you talk to them and then like you are taking care of the dogs and cat at your own home, why don't you give some money to the shelter? There are a lot of shelters of dogs and cats.
Actually, there is one more point.
I think it just depends how you
also,
phrase it. I mean, those are all really good. It just depends how you phrase it here in the US, depending on who you're talking to. Because like I said, you have a mixed bag here. So I really like the remedies that you're saying. And I really want to, make it, you have to say it depends on who your client is here in the US. They're just different, they'll do the remedy if you phrase it in a way that they can understand. And I like how you are presenting the remedies. Just, some are just in different places of their spiritual life. So I can't even just say it. I have to kind of tailor it to that person where they're at in their spiritual life. Because I work with a lot of, I'm not working, so to say, but I'm doing a lot of case studies. So some are what they call the millennials. They're in their 20s, and this is brand new to them. They're like, oh, I know about how, but they're not really used to this side.
Sir.
Okay.
We are moving out of the topic, sir.
Yeah, it's okay.
Just one clarification. Guruji.
1 minute. Just 1 minute. See, if this is a question that is asked, there is a method to answer this by using at least this idea, which is somewhat dependable. Now, Lakshmi reminded us of this method, because the problem with this is that you want some more firmer opinion on this. The best way to give a firm opinion on this is, at the time the Sade Sati starts, you also need to look up into the next 7.5 years, that particular span. You'll have to go through every dasha and antardasha and look out for what the Maharshis have said about it Maharshi Parashara has said about it in the Dashadhyaya of Brahat Parashara Shastra, BPHS Volume 2, where he has mentioned about what is the effect of each dasha and antardasha based on these conditions. So you first make some notes on that for the next 7.5 years. How is it applying for this particular person? Now, if you combine that with this, then you will get a better prediction. Now, suppose you see a lineup of, there'll be some strange things like suddenly the Maharshi will say during this period, there'll be huge loss of wealth. And during that particular portion, if that is synchronizing with the Sade Sati will actually fuel it. It will fan that event. It will the possibility of it will increase tremendously, because Sade Sati is like waiting for an opportunity type, because it's like a season change. It's like a cyclone. And in a cyclone, if you have some more problem, it's like you're driving on the road, and there are two things now. There is the environment, which I always related to as transit, because transit is definitely an environment. And now you'll say the transit, the environment around me is got somewhat cyclonish. There is a lot of heavy wind and maybe a lot of water, raining, heavy rain, etc. That is like a Sade Sati. It doesn't mean we all stop the car and park on the side and stay there. We will still continue. But you should know that you are going through this Sade Sati, and you should not be careless. You should say, no, I have to be very careful, and I can't afford to be drunk. So suppose you're drunk with greed and pride and etc., then this will surely be it will turn out into a huge unforgettable, we can say, nightmarish lesson. Whereas now, if you use this method, you get so much of clues about what could happen. But the best way to really confirm what might happen is get the Sarvashravarga chart and then find out what is the point here. For example, it could be anything because it will be a 2-digit number. So you can have 28, you could have 35, or you could have 22, and so on. Now, write out the score, and this is one way, but then there is a Saturn Ashtavarga. This is a separate one. Only for Saturn there will be. And in that you will have only numbers like, it will be like this, 3, 5, 4, and so on. So it will be a single digit number versus a 2-digit number, which you see for the Sarva Ashtaka. Sarva means everything, all the Ashtavarga combined. And so how you do this is like this. There's a very nice and dependable way, because this will separate you from all other people born in the same moon sign as you. The problem with Faladipika method is, if you compare yourself with someone else born in your same moon sign, to your surprise, you will find he is not going through the same life situations. For example, let's say one person is in trouble, but the other person belonging to the same moon sign is very happy. He is very successful during that time. Now, the reason is that each one of us have unique numbers in all these 3 squares, these 3 signs. I might have, for example, you might have something like maybe 35 and 32 and let's say again 30. All of them, they're greater than 28. So this score, the entire zodiac will have like 3, 3, 7. So obviously every house won't be having a high score, but lucky are those who have high score where the Sade Sati is involved at least. Second thing is, this is one way to start. Then watch out for the single digit score. Suppose this is 4 here, and let's say 3 here and 1 here. By comparison, when Saturn Sade Sati is finishing, the last 2.5 years is comparatively going to be more challenging, because you got a 1 here. Okay, because the score is 1 there. So when Saturn, after 2.5 years, like this, when it comes here, you will notice a difference, because this time Saturn in its Ashtavarga managed to get only 1 point as against 4, 3, and 1. Now, what is a yardstick? Simple idea. If you say greater than 28, then say good. And the more the number, the better it gets. Equal to 28, nothing, no comments. But less than 28, struggle begins. You put a question mark. But in the Binashtavarga, which is called the Saturn's Ashtakavarga, less than 3 equal to, greater than 3 is good. Equal to 3, okay, no comments. But 0, 1, and 2 or 2 will be quite challenging. And if it is 0, it is really bad. Sometimes it will happen that you have 0 and also in the 2-digit score, which is called the Sarvashvarga score, you might be, maybe perhaps that is the weakest house in the entire chart itself. Suppose, let's say you look into all the other zodiac signs and you see just something like 19. Oh my God, that's going to be really tough. So this is the best way to use this, combined with the dasha and antardasha, because life is only comparison. At any point in time, whenever people come to us for consultation, you have to look into this and see, okay, let's say he comes right in the middle of the storm. How is this part of the road? Yeah, it's going to improve a little bit. So comparatively, the person will feel that difference because he's been running through such a bad time. And so even a 1 mark increase in the Binashwarga score, he will be able to feel it. So please do not say it's a bad period. Instead, say it is trying times and more challenging. It's like an exam time. Just because exams are tough, will we say we will not attend the exam? I'm not going to attend. But the point is, we should learn how to reduce our, most probably the right word would be, if you are too ambitious and suddenly became too ambitious with pride and too much of everything is bad. Overconfidence. Yes, I can do this. And you have to use common sense. There are people who start something for the first time without any experience. How can you play any game without experience? You can't even play an ordinary game without experience. You will be defeated. And whenever you say business versus being employed in a job, maximum in Sade Sati, what happens is you lose a job, but then you always find another job. But in business, it is very active, almost like an enemy. It will work upon us. It will change our life. It will damage our life. Okay. Now, just to tell you, please be very careful with the Sade Sati, because it's not as simple as you think. I'll give you another example. Suppose this person comes to you. He has his moon over here, and Saturn, came over here in 2011, and then somewhere I think 14 he came here, and then 17 he came here, and then 20 he came here to Capricorn, where he's staying right now. 22 April, around that time, he will get into the next sign. Now, like this, as he was coming like this, what is it for this person?
Sade Sati started, sir.
Sade Sati started. So it has come over here like this. At this time, what would you tell this person?
It will be like really challenging time, because
suppose this person comes to you and says, I'm going to write an exam, IAS exam, or something like that. I'm going to try my luck in a very difficult situation. I'm going to risk it. What would you say?
It is not something to risk anything during that period, 2.5 years of period, sir, because moon is debilitated and also half the way through Sade Sati.
I would add to say that there is more hard work involved, but the results might be very less, as well as the mental state will be very challenging.
Okay. You're not going to tell, don't stop. You're going to say, write the exam, IAS exam, right?
I will say definitely have backup. Do not go without
a backup.
IAS exam is, if IAS exam is the only option, I would encourage them to add a backup alternate route that they could take if IAS doesn't work out.
Guruji, to add on, what if the Sarvashtaka, the score was 19 or 18, whatever?
Okay, now you are bringing in other factors, right? So you now understand why we shouldn't rush with this conclusions. Okay, now I'm going to tell you, suppose I'm Narendra Modi ji, and this is my moon. And Saturn came here around 2014. And if Narendra Modi ji tells you, I'm going to stand for prime ministership, what did you tell him?
Sure, you have to stand, but challenging will be there. You have to face a lot of problems. You have to do more efforts.
Sri Narendra Modi ji became the 14th Prime Minister of India around this time.
Yes, sir.
Sir, this PV Narasimha Rao also became Prime Minister at the time of Sade Sati only, sir.
Yeah. So the proof of this is he became Prime Minister on 26th. Whenever events happen during Sade Sati, these dates will be connected to your events.
Yeah, because like his Saturn is exalted in 10th house, sir.
I see.
Sorry, sir.
No. He's a Scorpio. He's a Scorpio.
Yeah, he's a Scorpio ascendant.
Yeah.
Sir, if Saturn is functional benefic, there is any help for the Sade Sati?
I think there will be, yes, especially for Taurus and Tula Lagna. Saturn is very benefit.
No, sir. I mean, I remember in the video you said nothing, sir. Even it is functional benefit. Only the points you said. Only the considerable. Only the point. for the value.
No, I think you need to use it only during the dasha period. That's it. But Saturn will always be Saturn. That's it. So even if it is Taurus in Libra, he will show his colors. So
So, sir, what's your view? I think it will be impact will be less if it is a benefit, especially for Taurus and Libra. But if the Ashtanga Varga score is less and other factors are bad, then yes, it
Irrespective
will
of
not.
anything, suppose you are the Prime Minister of India, will it be something that is quite easy or very tough?
It's very
Tough,
tough.
sir.
So tough, sir. Prime Minister means it is very tough. Even normal also it is very tough. So tough job, sir.
obviously, huge responsibility. Millions of lives are in your hands, though.
So you should be very careful by remembering this example that I quoted, that every time you see somebody Sade Sati beginning, just don't scare them by saying you are entering a bad phase. Okay, just tell them that there's going to be a lot of responsibilities. There's going to be a lot of pressure on you, but then don't give in, don't cave in, don't resign. Just hold on. Lot of problems will surface. Okay.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
What about the Ashtama Sani, sir? Because Sani tend to give the results in just 2.5 years and compared to 7.5 years Saturn. How to judge the Ashtama Sani period?
The Ashtama Sani effect is when the moon goes over the 8th from your moon, okay, from wherever it is. So definitely the effects are strong, very challenging, but it all depends on, as I said, how do you know, how would you answer a question, whether a person can do something or not? Is it based on transit? You're going to tell that, okay, you can try something like that. For example, if I ask you, if I ask you the question, I want to be the Prime Minister of India.
Guruji, depends on.
No. Just wait. Yeah. Would you go through my horoscope or make a statement without a horoscope?
Going through horoscope, sir.
Yeah, the natal.
Are you sure?
Guruji, just look at the past track record, you will understand. Saturn should also have that. How prepared are they? Like Narendra Modi was probably prepared. He's already in politics for so many years. So it's not like he is unprepared to meet the challenge.
So, sir, what I normally do is I listen to my intuition, and then I match my intuition to the natal chart, and it usually is correct. So intuitively, if I feel a sinking feeling, I won't say much. I'll say, let's take a look at your chart. But if it's for Sade Sati, again, I agree with you that you have to say it's not a bad time. It's just a very unearthing time where a lot will come to the surface. You'll have to make some really important choices. But I tend to go first with my intuition, and then I look at the chart and to see how accurate my intuition is, and then I allow the flow to come through. That's how I usually work with it. I have strong intuition, so that's why I'm able to do that. But it's something that has to be developed, or you're gifted with it. But I tend to do it more with the impression I'm getting, the spiritual impression, and then I look at their chart and see if they're matching.
Guruji, I would say look at the character of the person as well as the past track record. That's how I approach. So Alice goes through her intuition. I look at their track record and actions, karma, what they have done so far. That gives much of a, even if somebody wants to start a business, if they are well prepared, if they are ready, then yeah, meet the challenge, do head on, go do it. If they are not mentally prepared, if their character is bad, if they're a lazy person, then obviously it's going to be, Saturn is going to bend their knee.
Also, you stated that at the beginning of this session that your natal chart sort of determines what will happen. The transit determines when will it happen. So I think you'll have to look at the natal chart.
Yeah, that's the answer I was looking for. Okay. That is, you have to first find out, is this horoscope extraordinary? Has it got whatever it, whatever the person wants to achieve, is there the possibility for achieving it? Once you see there is a possibility, which means he's designed for it, then even a Sade Sati, you cannot use it so carelessly by saying, no, it's Sade Sati, so don't stand in the elections. Just skip it. It's not correct because they have it in their horoscope. And then what Saturn will do is it will give them, hard, maybe some experiences that they have to go through to figure out things by themselves. And they go through a lot of stress and strain. But finally, what happens is not based upon the transit, because as I told you, it's only a trigger. It presses the switch, but the way the fan is going to function is not in the switch, in the hands of the switch. It is mostly already designed and kept ready for that person. So this person is supposed to go through these experiences by the fact that there is a peculiar type of positions in the horoscope that makes it possible for him to become the number one person in India, against all odds. But in Sade Sati, they will go through the trouble. But one way, if you want to know, for a lay person, how is it, you can always ask for hints. That's the best way to do it. For example, as soon as Sade Sati started, they will notice certain changes in them. One is that they will get into some kind of a health problem concerning their joints, bone and joint, especially the knee. Happen very quickly. In a very short time, all this can happen. And it also, there can be so many other events that happen in life. But the best way, the acid test for Sade Sati, whether it is bad or not, is asking what are the events that has happened. Let's say is coming to you after 1 year. Then you ask him some questions. Have you been, did you develop some strange problem with your knees? We started limping. Or very often times you find that in your food you have stones and hair. These are the telltale signs. Have you been bitten by a dog? Have you been pecked by a crow? These are the very strong evidences that Saturn is turning bad. Now, if you get these hints, several times the crow dropping has fallen on your body, maybe on your head, and you have to rush in for a bath. So many things. You've been hit by a car, maybe a vehicle that has black as its color. So you'll see by noticing more about Saturn, and when you see these telltale signs are there. In house, you will see suddenly the termites will increase, the rat population will increase, it will start messing up with your house. And for many people who have never had dandruff, they will develop dandruff. And it will be all over your shirt, all over your head. And how much ever you try to suppress it using whatever ideas that the doctors give, nothing will work. You've been in a day shift and suddenly they shift you over to the night shift. All your sleep is gone. Now, once you get these hints, then you should go quickly into the remedy side. And then you'll have to do that. But then supporting evidence is, you will find all this that I mentioned. The dasha and antardasha also would have turned bad, etc. On the other hand, you don't see anything of this, then you're most probably in the right time. This is only after you get into it, you come to know about it. But if you want to know much beforehand, you could use this overall ideas. Like, for example, you have all the combinations never to succeed in business. Probably you have Lagna Lord in the 12th, you have the 5th Lord in the 6th, and you have so many other conditions in your chart. All kinds of problems. Maybe you have 3rd Lord in the 6th where it's an employee bad luck. One by one, you search in the horoscope, you have so many things which says don't ever step into business. When you see that this is the combination that the person has, even with the greatest effort, nobody can survive in Sade Sati. It's totally against your horoscope type. This is not your karma. So for each one of us, there is a script already. This is your script. This is where you have to work. You can't try to be in another person's shoes and you want to become that. And you say,
sir, can you repeat those combinations for not
it will be recorded. It will be recorded. It will be recorded. You can go through this again. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. So You have to first search and find out all these things as much as you can. But if you get overwhelming evidence on one side that this is definitely stacking up, and you can be sure that this has happened, then you always stay by this. I generally, as a teacher, I would like to tell you, please just use plain astrology. If you go beyond astrology, and if you try to use some other faculty, it may work, but then it is not astrology, because you're using some other abilities in you. Because some people might, rely more about the feeling that they get, but that will be very personal to them. You can't give this gift to others. Sometimes people are gifted even without any astrology, without any horoscope. People can just look at somebody and say something and it will happen. Now, that's not astrology. That's something else. Yogis can do it. Some certain kinds of minds can do this. Quite often, by just looking at a person, they can sense it. These are not, this is not astrology. But when it comes to astrology, you need only the Ashtaka Varga, and you need to know the rules by heart about where is Saturn. Whenever Saturn goes to your third house, your sixth house, and your 11th house, this is the time that you're waiting for. So when people finish Sade Sati, luckily for all of us, Saturn will give you, okay, you withstood the test. Is that the bell for me to go? Okay, thank you.
Guruji, last question. We have to count the Sade Sati when Saturn enters into the 12th house, or 45 degrees, as you mentioned earlier, from the moon. Which is accurate, effective, will start.
Accurate is 45 degrees, but for beginners, it's okay if you just simply count the sign. It is not going to be much of a difference.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Guruji, so what will be the remedy? What will be the remedy if, if they're going through where the Ashtaka score is 0, and even
the first, if it is 0, and let's say that is the lowest score in the Sarvasva Varga, it is almost confirmed that this is going to be the toughest portion of Sade Sati. Okay, there's no doubt about that.
So what remedy do we give them?
The remedy is first say not to take the risk, because this is not for you. Because at least don't do it now. Wait for your time. So you can do that. Second is, suppose they already got into it and then they have come to you. What will you do?
And start the remedies. We have to start the remedies. Whichever.
Then what you should ask them, you should ask them for proof. Like, for example, you want to clarify, you want to get some more insights into this. You can ask, did you notice that all things happening now is connected to Saturn Nakshatra, Pushya, the 8th Nakshatra, the 17th Nakshatra, the 26th Nakshatra. For example, an unforgettable case in my life, I'll never forget, is a man having totally 12 fractures in 7.5 years Saturn. All the 12 happened only during Saturn times. It's just almost impossible, right? I know of a man who was always getting, he was been very successful throughout life, but during that period, he came prepared with a list of dates where he said everything happened only on these dates. So the dates are 8, 17, and 26th. And the people or things that affected them always started with the letter P or F or pra or fra sound, PRA or FRA or PAR or per, where will be the pa and the ra coming very close to each other. In case this is happening so often, you should get into this mantra, Om Pram Prim Pram Sahasranishcharaya Namaha. That mantra you should repeat. If only this pra is so much afflicting. So I know of many strange things that have happened. The doctor gave them a steroid called prednisolone, something like that. Or people consumed poison, P word, and the poison itself was a pesticide which starts with P. So based on my article, my blogs and my videos, people have sent me a lot of stuff, like emails coming to me saying my son committed suicide on this date. It was exactly on the date that you mentioned, and he had consumed this poison. I got a lot of evidence, people giving me these photographs of things that has happened. So you have by effect also, you can try to quantify the costs based on the events. It is next to impossible for events to repeat so perfectly only on these dates. So, for example, since we spoke about Narendra Modi ji, he was so much influenced by this 8 number. I don't know if you know this. He was born on which date?
17th, sir.
He joined RSS.
17th September, sir.
Okay. What is his nakshatra number?
17 Anuradha, is it?
17 is Anuradha nakshatra.
Anuradha. And sir, his Saturn is sitting right on the ascendant degree.
Saturn is sitting right on ascendant. When did he announce? When did he announce demonetization?
November 8th.
At 8 p.m., sir.
At 8 p.m. and not 7 p.m. right?
Yes, sir. All his
8 p.m., sir.
announcements will be only at 8 p.m.
All his announcement only at 8 p.m.
Only 8 p.m. He'll address the nation only at 8 p.m.
So is he astrologer or we are astrologers?
He is reflecting astrology.
Sir,
Okay.
Modi ji is a big astrologer, sir. He has a lot of knowledge and a lot of things.
Okay. So the thing is, now, is it working only for big people in the world, or is it working for everybody in the same way?
It works everybody in the same
Everyone,
way.
sir.
Yeah. So there was one case of a lady who got attacked by crows in 3 different places on a Saturday, which was also an 8th. 3 different places. And please don't underestimate the power of a crow when it pecks you. You will actually bleed. Okay.
Sir, his Saturn is sitting in Sun's nakshatra, and Sun is sitting in its own nakshatra, Narendra Modi.
Well, what?
Narendra Modi's Saturn is sitting in Sun's nakshatra, and Sun is sitting in its own nakshatra, Uttara Falguni.
Okay. Now, let's not get into the details. See, I'm just giving you some tips on how to understand Sade Sati, which is the most important transit. Now, when such a bad period happens, when is the time that you will be able to even get out of it? Is there a gap, or is it continuously bombarding? So for that, we'll have to use Jupiter, because in the 7 years, Jupiter will go over 7 signs. And each time Jupiter goes, it goes to a different house. And whenever Jupiter goes to 2, 5, 7, 9, 11 from your moon, it will kind of give you the solutions. It will give you the solutions. Okay. Yeah. So we will end because I have another class. We have another class. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
get
Thank you,
back.
sir.
The recording will be available. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.